Chris, about Tom Atkins, so a big milestone this week. How proud are you of his journey to get to this mark since you picked him up at the club?
I mean, personally, I'm really proud of him. But he's someone the whole of Geelong should be proud of. He's a great local story, didn't come easy for him, worked his way through sort of the local ranks really and our VFL program. And now he's just come to epitomise who we aspire to be. I think he'd be embarrassed listening to people talk about him and say nice things about him. But having said that, I still remember, I think it was 22, and I don't want to go back that far generally, but he was just so entrenched in our team, was so important to what we did. And some people, players, coaches, can reel off platitudes, but when he said, I just think of it as if I'm on the edge of this team every single week. Now that just manifestly was untrue, but he meant it, and that's the way he's gone about his approach. He's never taken anything for granted. He's very appreciative of the opportunity that Geelong's given him, and I think the whole footy club is even more appreciative of what he's done for us. It feels like 150's sort of been a bit of a long time coming. It feels to me like he's been around a lot longer than that, and I'm sure that there's a fair way to go. It sort of almost sounds like a eulogy. It doesn't, feel. We're only probably halfway there with Tom, but it's worth lingering on because he does deserve the adulation that he gets from his teammates, and again that kind of footy club. Like even that he doesn't do it. I won't bring it up. All I say is he does some things around the club that he just doesn't need to do, but he does it because he feels like he can make a difference. He's that sort of guy.
Well, it seems like you mentioned that. That's interesting that he kind of maybe saying he had the imposter syndrome is a bit extreme, but is that something you kind of need to? Do you have to coach confidence in him? I know it sounds a bit ridiculous to say because he's such a good player at his position, but is that something you've had to deal with the last 5-6 years? No,
not really. I think it more speaks to the fact that he's just so driven. I don't think he's ever lacked for confidence. He couldn't do what he's done, if he really did have. Put it this way: I don't think he ever had any doubt around his will to compete and give himself every chance. And I just don't think he allows himself to think about how good he actually is. He's just always looking to get a bit better the next day.
Seems like he's going to be a full-time coach post-career, whenever that is.
He could do it easily. Yeah. But I reckon he'd be a great captain of a footy club too. He's that sort of guy. So that is extremely high praise, and I don't give it out flippantly. So yeah, I shouldn't pump him up too much. Other clubs will come knocking.
Chris, obviously, a bit of fun here. Shannon Neal comes out, Jet Hughes comes in. It's not like for like, but you obviously can do what you can do with your lineup. But can you just give us the logic behind bringing Jed back?
Well, Jed's been right on the edge of our team for a long time, and we'd love to have Shannon available, but the upside is it gives us a chance to play Jed. He's a very live option for us coming into the finals, and it's optimal for those guys to have had some AFL experience as close to those finals as possible. So it's not much more complicated than that. He was the next one in our mind anyway. And we've got that group of players, Nevitt, Clark, George Stevens, Ted Closey, who are right on the edge as well. And we've been able to get a little bit of game time into those guys the last little bit, but it's been a pretty consistent and available group of players we've had, so there haven't been too many of those chances.
Do you consider more changes to have guys having an AFL game under their belt, or is it too fine a line to be messing at this time of year?
Yeah, I think we'd prioritise continuity over giving opportunity to others. But anything can happen. So we're pleased that we have a group of players that, and this is a reasonable example. We think we've got the flexibility in the side that we didn't need to replace a key forward with another key forward. But we've got 4 or 5 players that if they come into the team, we're very happy with that. We don't think we're losing that much.
Were you shocked to see Shannon cop a week for, I would say what he did, but it seemed like he didn't really do much?
Yeah, it didn't. It seemed really innocuous. It was one of those very, very rare situations where I didn't notice it game day, and even on the vision, I didn't notice it until it was pointed out to me. But the way the rules are, and our understanding of the rules, and they're quite clear, I think, that they changed it some time ago to say, if it's a bump and the contact's high, the lowest grading can be medium. So it made it impossible to challenge based on the rules. As it turned out, the Gold Coast went and challenged exactly the same thing, and they downgraded it to low, which our reading of the rules was that's not an option available to them. So, yeah, I was doubly surprised.
So in hindsight, it would have been the best decision to appeal, knowing that after what Gold Coast achieved?
Well, it would have been good to go straight after them, and we could have cut to the chase and said what they said.
Do you think if a player in future's in that same position, if they show a bit of maybe like remorse or a bit of an apology and be like, hey, look, I didn't mean to bump you there, that maybe then he might not cop a week in the future, other players might not do the same?
I hope not. I hope that we haven't got to the extreme end of virtue signalling, that every time you bump into someone that you have to apologise to throw yourself at the mercy of the court. I think we're at peak virtue signalling, aren't we? For those that can't see it, like complete agreement in the room.
Mitch Duncan played for the VFL last week. I felt like he dealt with it a little bit last year with a few guys, Hawkins and Tui kind of coming to the end of their career and not being able to kind of get back into the team, whether it was injury or selection. But did you think in terms of this week of whether that's a fair or well game, or is he still, I guess, a live option going forward into finals as well?
No, we didn't think about a farewell game. In fact, that's sort of the first I've even thought of it. I don't feel a bit embarrassed. I maybe should have thought of it, but I think my reaction kind of speaks to the mindset that we're in. We feel like we've got that group of younger players that I spoke of, and then we have some more experienced players, Cam Guthrie, Mitch Duncan, Jake Kolajasny, who we're well and truly leaving the door open for. So it's not a matter of sort of thinking about what's best for them as individuals. We're more thinking how can they contribute to the team at the moment, and they're all live options. It's unfortunate with the schedule that they don't have a formal game this week, but we'll get some pretty meaningful match practice in a training setting in. So we think that'll it'll give them a chance to push their case.
Did you see the vision on the weekend with his goal and Billy Smith's coming?
I did. Someone showed me. I think it's funny. I don't really know what to think of it. But I do know Billy, and every time his name comes up, it makes me smile. So, yeah, in a nice way. I don't know. What did you think? Pretty funny. Yeah.
Chris, you're talking about potentially those match simulation scratch matches at a lower level. Is Collingwood your sort of your likely partner, depending on how their VFL perform this weekend, if they would be knocked out of the finals race there? They're the club that you're in discussion with to make something happen?
They're one of them, Kingy. I'm probably not the right person to ask on this, because sort of the way our systems worked with this, we've got people working on it and they understand the intricacies of it better than I do. They understand what our senior coaching group would like in a perfect world, and then they're just going about trying to deliver that for us. So I don't quite understand the nuance around it, but you likely know that detail better than I do. But Collingwood are definitely one of the teams that we've spoken to.
What do you need to tidy up before finals?
Oh, nothing we're going to tell the opposition about. Look, I can't ever remember being overconfident. I'm always, it's your job as a coaching group to be thinking about sort of what might happen and how we can kind of get ahead of it as much as possible. I think we're just approaching it in terms of another opportunity to really get a game up and going. And often you don't even know what those things are going into a game. I think the likely outcome would be we'll see some things within games that, you know, or within this game tomorrow that we need to work on. The opposition are on top in a certain area and we need to adjust. But I think that's a reasonable point to make, that it feels, because we have had some continuity in our group, and we feel as if we have a group of players, a big group of players, that, you know, have a really clear understanding of how we want to play. And that's I think that's what gives us confidence as much as anything going into, you know, a final series. So that, yeah, I know I'm not answering a question and getting specific around what we need to improve, but I think even if I were to get a bit more specific, it'd still end up being pretty general.
Do you think it's been a distraction for, I know you kind of said that for Jeremy Cameron achieving 100 it's not really something that the club is thinking about or he's thinking about, but do you think that media kind of distraction has maybe hampered the way that you want him to play, or maybe other teams are starting to defend against him, and maybe that will change now, that maybe that mark might not be achieved potentially tomorrow?
I don't think so. I mean, I should be clear. We're not running away from it. I'd love him to kick 100 goals. And in terms of the distraction, like if that's the biggest distraction we get for the rest of the year, I'll be okay with that as well. Like it's the lot of a professional athlete and a professional football club that there will be things that are more interesting to other people than they are to you. Like we have the capacity to deal with that stuff. The part that I've tried to explain is that we just don't want to compromise the way we play too much for any individual. And Jeremy's the one that drives that as much as anyone. And he's a different type of key forward, especially those who have kicked big bags, you know, in previous years, in that he doesn't play the same way every week. And the way he tends to play for us is dictated a bit by how the game's going and a bit by what the opposition present. So with that in mind, we were never going to pivot away from that model to say, let's just play as a deep forward and try to get you as many goals as possible. That was never on the agenda for us. Now, if that's interpreted as we don't care about him kicking 100, that would be untrue. Like I tried to be specific about this. We're all for our players achieving individual outcomes, but we're just of the belief that if you can only have one, you should prioritise the team one. Most of the time you can have both, I reckon.